Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collider cast, episode 64. I'm Steve Tudor.
And I'm Andy Lewis.
And that's it this week. We are thin on the ground this episode, unfortunately.
I don't think either of us could be described as thin, Steve. Let's be honest.
No, we have the weight of 3 men, maybe 4.
Potentially, yes. I am. As I discovered at a recent wedding, that my waistcoat is too small for me now. We put it down to the conclusion I've grown some back fat, but I suspect it's more titties.
Oh dear.
Yes, I am now a 44 across the chest. I've always been a 42, but now, sadly, I am a 44, which I find weird, because it is literally my rib cage, and I don't think my ribs have grown. I can't use the Cartman excuse of I'm big boned.
No, because bones don't generally get bigger.
No. So, yes, I'm going to have to face the grim reality. I am now old and fat. Oh, well.
Well, we knew you were 50% the way there.
Yes, and even older later. In fact, a month today.
Oh, dear. Oh. It's a big 4-0 then.
It is the big 4-0. It is a sad day all round.
Well, I'm hoping it's going to be a fun day all round, to be fair.
Actually, yes, I'm looking forward to it. We're still in the throngs of preparation, but mostly done now. I need to go and talk to the brewery, actually, that reminds me.
So maybe you can organise a piss-up in a brewery.
Yes, indeed. Well, I have one every other Thursday when we're not D&Ding, so why not?
I do love the fact that your local games club is in a brewery. I mean, that is just amazing.
It is absolutely wonderful, and the beer is bloody good. It is literally pulled, the brewery tap is through the wall of the brewery. It's you've got the brewing room, and then you've got the brewery, like the bar is literally on the other side of the wall. It's the beer miles on that are more beer inches than anything else. There's 12 beer inches. It's particularly good.
I'm looking forward to sampling it, actually.
May I strongly recommend Mr. William Mucklow's Dark Mild. It is very easy to drink, and a pinch at only 6%.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I know, 3 of them and you're anyone's, believe me. But it makes for a fun afternoon.
Is that why you only play Sushi Go at this games club?
It's all I'm capable of after 3 pints. Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, sorry, we haven't got a John or a Rory this week due to administrative oversight.
Yes, they were terminated.
Well, the main administrative oversight is that John forgot to tell us it was Kaz's birthday today. So happy birthday, Kaz, if you're listening.
Bad boy, John.
I don't think he'd forgotten it was her birthday. He'd just forgotten last week that he couldn't make it this week, because we actually rescheduled. We were supposed to do a podcast last week, but we didn't because not everyone could make it, and it ends up that no one can make it this week apart from me and you. So we apologise for the delay, and apologise again that you've just got to listen to us two idiots witter on for the next hour and a half.
Sorry, a particular disappointment for many of our fans, because I was recently at a 50th birthday over the weekend. Remember Rich from our Worcester Gaming group?
Yeah.
He was 50 on 2 days ago from recording this podcast, so Monday. But the preceding weekend, so a week ago basically from when you're listening to this, he was very generous and hired out this ridiculous manor house in the arsehole of nowhere in South Yorkshire. And it was enormous. It had 15 double bedrooms. Yes. It had a dining table for 30, 2 hot tubs, a cinema, a games room with a table tennis table, a pool table, air hockey, and foosball, and a bar, as well as a kitchen larger than my house, 2 gardens, and a swimming pool in progress.
Blimey.
Oh, yes, it was... and a boot room as well with a dog washer. That was the best bit. You got an area specifically used for washing dogs. It's basically a bath with no sides, except half of it's like a glass side. So it's like a trough that you sit the dog in, and there's like a glass screen so you can get at it, but then it doesn't stop it. It stops the dog sort of shaking all his water off on you. It's genius. And anyway, we did this over the weekend, and they are all familiar with our work on here. And those that do listen, which are at least 3 of them, have all suggested much to our consternation, Steve, that Rory is an excellent addition to the podcast.
Is that because he knows what he's talking about rather than us three talk complete bollocks?
Yes, pretty much. It's nice to know somebody out there actually knows the industry. So there was much positive feedback on Rory's addition. So yes, we're not going to let his head get too big.
No, too late for that, I think.
Absolutely.
Well, without Rory and John being here, we haven't really got much from the news ferrets, those two being the two main ferret wranglers. So I just picked up a couple of things which have caught my eye. Number one, something that you waved in front of the camera in front of me a few moments before we started recording, which is the release of the Acquisitions Incorporated book for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
Oh, yes.
Now, I wasn't quite sure about this because it being, I must admit, I've listened to the odd one or two episodes of Acquisitions Incorporated, but I'm not a big follower of it. But you seem to be waving it in front of you with gleeful abandon.
Yes, it's different. It's cartoony rather than arty, if that makes sense, because it doesn't have the usual Dungeons and Dragons art in it. It's much more cartoony, so obviously akin to its source material, as you can see by the chap I'm holding up in front of the camera there. Although the blur's probably ruining it for you, but never mind. But there are... Oh, it even refers... Now, this is interesting. It refers... I've just literally turned to a page, the insults to die for, who dressed you a Grimlock? There we go. But it does look kind of fun, and I'm interested, because I haven't actually watched or read much Penny Arcade over the last few years. I'm aware of their work, but I haven't got involved in Acquisitions Incorporated itself. I have got this book purely because I'm a completionist.
Yes, and it'd be wrong to have a gap in your D&D collection, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Now, I'm not getting all of the ancillary nonsense. I'm only getting the proper Wizards of the Coast releases, which is why I have recently also acquired the Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and have pre-ordered the Baldur's Gate one, obviously.
Descent into Avernus.
That's the Badger. Which I'm looking forward to that with much aplomb.
Have you bought Heroes of Baldur's Gate, the third-party one?
I have not.
So I'm not quite sure to buy that, because at the moment it's basically PDF only, but you can buy a print copy, but it's rather expensive.
Oh, sorry, is this the one on Kickstarter?
No, this is... well, it's by the people who did the Greek mythology one on Kickstarter. But it's on DM's Guild at the moment, and it's basically it's Baldur's Gate as an adventure in a setting set roughly about the same time as the video games, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
Right.
So it's made by the same people who made those video games, and it's kind of been like authorized by Wizards of the Coast, and apparently the artwork inside is absolutely beautiful and some beautiful maps of it, but it's I think like it's £15 for the PDF, but I think it's like £45 for the print copy. Mainly because it has to be printed in American, dispatched over to you. It's print on demand. They don't keep a stock of them.
Ah, yes. Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, you mean?
That's the one I'm talking about. The other one, yes. Odyssey of the Dragon Lords.
I went for that.
I suggest by that tone you spent a lot of money on that.
Oh, well, you say a lot. I went for the hard copy as well. So
fair enough.
But yes, no, I've got Odyssey of the Dragon Lords on its way, which I'm quite impressed with. Lead designer of Baldur's Gate 1 2.
So the other thing I thought we'd best mention is if you saw any of the photographs from us at UK Games Expo, you may have noticed a silly photograph of us all putting our fingers to our lips in the presence of Frank from City of Games. And that's because we got a sneaky look at Isle of Cats. Now, the reason it was a sneaky look is it's just launched on Kickstarter, by the way. It's on there today, which means it's definitely on there by the time you're listening to this. It's already funded. I think it's funded within hours. Now, Frank's taken an experimental approach to this, is the way he put it. He said he's not doing like a big hype for this game, but instead just teasing bits of information and then releasing it straight on Kickstarter, just to see, he said, a little bit like what effect that has. But we were really lucky that we managed to get snuck back at this stand at UK Games Expo and have a look at the prototype of this. Now, what this is, it's a slightly heavier polyominoes game. What Frank said he wanted to do was get something that, he says, most polyominoes games like Bear in Park or Patchwork are quite light.
Yes.
And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got A Feast for Odin, which is definitely not light. And I'll talk about that later. But they said there's nothing in the middle. There's nothing at that kind of like, okay, slightly heavier than what we've got, which most gamers tend to be moving towards once they've got past the initial stages of gaming kind of thing. So he says what this is it's a, I think he kept saying like Wingspan level is what he was aiming at. So he basically says that this game is got some extra levels of complexity. So what you're trying to do is you're going to the Isle of Cats, because of course all of Frank's games are set in his City of Kings setting, and the aim is you're supposed to be wrangling these cats and bringing them on board on your ship, and that's the polyominoes element. So the board you're playing on is your boat, and all the cats are little polyomino shapes, and what you're trying to do is fit them onto your boat and fit them into rooms and cover rats, I think it was, on the board.
Yes, I think so. Because from what you read, because I turned up late because myself and Rory were involved with something else. We turned up towards the end, but yes, I think he explained that if you lose points if there's rats uncovered, something like that.
And you basically want to make sure that certain cats are in certain rooms. But where most of this kind of depth of this game wasn't just that, it was the fact you were using cards, and cards had to be used to entice cats to your boat and set traps and things like that. It looked, I mean, we only saw a prototype, but the prototype looked absolutely gorgeous.
It did look good. And I did like the idea of all the cats are in different poses, which is what makes the shape of all the tiles. So it was all very, very entertaining. And we even found a couple of cats that were rather reminiscent of the two monstrosities that happened to roam my turf here. Oh, sorry, their turf here.
Get it right, it's not yours, is it?
No, indeed. So, yes, it did look quite interesting. I have it on good authority, i.e. Kickstarter grassed him up, that John has already backed this.
Yes.
So, I won't be.
Oh, you won't be? Okay.
No. Well, it's more the fact that it's probably not the sort of game I play very often. It's following Frank's white box, black box strategy. So he does the black box, which are the bigger games, and then there's the white box, which are the slightly lighter games. Now, we've already got Fedoran Gardens.
Yes.
I've already got City of Kings. And I'm rather looking forward to the City of Kings prequel, which is another black box game. So I'm going to hold out for that.
Is this Something Blades? I can't remember.
Rising Blades.
Rising Blades, that's the one, yes. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit coming out on Kickstarter at the moment, and I've got to admit, it's the last few months, but with Kickstarter and UK Games Expo and a wedding and a stag do that I've been to, have been financially ruinous. So
I'm in a similar situation. When I looked at my bank account, having just been paid, and went, I'm still skint. This isn't good. So I'm on a self-imposed hiatus from buying anything.
Well, I'm debating because also if you remember in the last episode I mentioned that Super Fantasy Brawl. I quite like that.
Oh, that's just hit, hasn't
it? That's just hit as well. We can't afford it at the moment. Let's talk about some games we have been able to buy and play then, shall we?
That is a good idea. Let's start at the top of the pile with Wingspan.
Ah, yes. So did you pick this up at UK Games Expo as well?
Alora did, but yes.
Alora did, yes. So yes, in fact, Amanda wanted this game. So yes, it is our partners that wished to purchase this game, but we were both happy with it because we both like Stonemaier and both following the hype. So yes. Wingspan, a game about birds.
Boids, yes.
How do you describe this game in simple terms? It's basically a little engine builder, really, isn't it?
It is. It's a card-based engine builder. So you are essentially an ornithologist, or at least this is the theme I've put upon it, because I don't think it's really that explanatory in terms of the setting.
It's not clear, is it?
No, but my understanding is that you are an ornithologist collecting birds, or at least observing them. And there are 3 habitats in the game. These birds live in each of these habitats, and your objective is to basically put as many of the birds as you can in each of the habitats, thus improving your engine.
Indeed. And then there are some little bonus things as well, which are quite interesting. So every round you've got a little bonus thing that fires off, and it might be like have the most birds in wetlands, or have the most this kind of nest with eggs in them, or
yes,
have the most birds on your board. And those little bonuses only actually kick in that round.
Yeah, so the end of each round has a separate objective, which is quite an interesting driver, actually. I'm in two minds as to whether it works or not.
Now, which versions have you played? Because there are actually two versions of the bonus system.
There's the nice, friendly, learn the game, blue approach.
Yes.
Which is all, let's just get along and everyone just gets some points, no matter how badly you do. And then there's the I'm better, you're not getting any points version, which is designed for the more advanced players.
Yes. So the simple version basically has, I think it's 0 to 5 victory points available. And it will be, so if it says like number of nests with eggs in them, if you've managed to get 5 nests with eggs in them, you get the 5 points. But the nasty version actually ranks people. So whereas the most gets like 7 victory points, second gets 5, and it's 3, 2, 1, it drops off quite quick. And the numbers change from round to round. So I can't remember the exact order they go in, but it's not like 7, 7, 7 all the way through. I think it's like there's a 9 in there somewhere. So basically, just having like 5 of these nests is not enough. You can get away with 1 if your opponents don't have any. But if your opponents are starting to meet those objectives, you have to really kick it up a gear if you want those points. Yeah,
so it does involve keeping an eye on what your opponents do, which is a good thing in a way because it removes the slight feeling of multiplayer solitaire that I think it suffers.
Well, I don't think it's a slight feeling of multiplayer solitaire. I think Wingspan is a multiplayer solitaire game. You can't get away from it. There's very, very little player interaction. The only way you're interacting is there's a set of 3 cards, 3 birds, which you can grab off the middle table. And then other than that, that's it.
Yeah, there's no other... Oh, well, you could, if you're feeling particularly vicious, you could steal some food resources from the feeder.
Oh, yeah, grabbing the food. Sorry, yes, you're right.
That's really difficult to do, though, and timing-wise, because there's only 5 dice. And if you bag 2 of them, there's obviously the rule that if there's only 1 of these dice left, you can choose to basically re-roll a lot and then take a selection of the full 5 if you wanted to. So that's really timing dependent, rather. So it's less a reliable strategy, but it's about the only way you could interact and screw someone over. And even then, it's not that bad because there's you can always use 2 resources instead of 1 approach.
Yeah, it's a weird little engine builder, actually, because what you do is you've got these 3 habitats. And what you're doing is you're placing your birds in these habitats going from left to right. And then to the right of the bird is an action. And it's basically grab food, lay eggs, and grab cards. And whenever you take the action, you also fire off the abilities of any birds that's to the left of it that have abilities. Some of them don't have abilities, but most of them do have abilities that fire off during this point. So the more birds you have, the more things you will do on that round.
Yes.
But it's weird in that I say engine builder, but it doesn't feel like other engine builders. It just feels like you'll do something and you get some more benefits from it. It doesn't feel like you're building like a sequence of events that do something big and grand. It just feels like, I'm going to do this, which is going to do something else, which is then going to do something else, which is going to do something else. And those other things can be completely unrelated.
Yeah, I think that's driven by the randomness of the cards, because on something like, say, a Euro, where you've got more control over the engine you build, Wingspan is obviously driven by cards, and you can't always control, or at least massively control, the cards that come into your hand. Because you've only got a choice of 3 in a market or 1 from a random draw pile. And the cards rattle through quite quickly depending on what people do, because quite a lot of the time people will draw 2 or 3 cards on their turn. So the market completes recycled, 2 or 3 times in an entire orbit, which means you can't plan too far ahead as to which cards you're going to get, and therefore which cards you want to put down. So the engine that you build is, I suppose, almost a spur of the moment decision based on what you've got in your hand. Now, obviously, you've got a choice of cards in your hand, so you're going to choose the best one that suits you. But I find it quite hard to plan ahead too far and go, am I going to put that there? Am I going to put that there? Sometimes you can, but again, it's very dependent on what comes out.
It should also be pointed out as well that this deck of birds, it's an absolutely massive deck of cards.
It's something like 174 cards or something ridiculous of the 904 species in North America, something ridiculous like that. It's a huge deck, you're right.
And even in a 4-player game, you're not going to get through and see all these cards in a single game. So there's not even a kind of like, well, I know this kind of card's in there, I can plan for that. It's it's going to be a case of, as you said, spur of the moment. You're going to work with what you've got and what's in front of you. And some of the like these engine build, we'll call them engine abilities, but they're not really engine building, are they? Like the birds of prey are the interesting ones, I think.
Yeah, they're a bit more influential.
Yeah, because they're ones where you, a bird of prey, you draw another card from the deck, and if the wingspan of that bird is under a certain size, depending on the size of bird of prey, it gets tucked behind, which is basically a victory point for the end of the game.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of them which hoard food, so the more food they grab and put on their cards, the more victory points there at the end.
Other than that, it's quite straightforward. Although,
yeah,
one of the groups I've played it with just couldn't, or a couple of members, I should say, not everyone struggled with this, but they really struggled with, so if I put a bird card down, I get all the stuff on the board. No, you just put the bird card down. They really struggled with putting it down. It's like, it's not that hard. It's 4 actions. Choose one action. And that's it. But it's a really mechanically very straightforward game. It is literally choose one of the 4 actions. 3 of them are very similar. You either grab food, grab eggs, or grab cards. The other one is just play a card and pay whatever cost the card happens to have on it, and then kick off all of these abilities, as you say, and then that's it. It's really quite quick, so it should rattle along quite nicely.
Oh, it does. And the other thing is as well, it rattles along a little bit quicker as the game goes on, because your tokens, which you use to represent which actions you've taken, they go onto the board to represent which victory points you've got on this the turn by turn one. So you actually get less actions each round. Now, of course, you should have built up a bit of an engine, so every time you do an action, you should get more stuff happening. But it means decision-wise, it gets easier and easier. Almost to the point when the final round, you go, right, I'm after this. Oh, can't do it. I haven't got enough actions.
The Lewis strategy.
I'm going to put down this bird that requires 2 rats. Oh, crap.
No
I don't
rats.
have the eggs to put it in the phone column, and I don't have any rats. That's all right, I can cycle through the bird feeder. Oh, that'll take another action.
Yep, that's it. I need 2 sets of eggs. Oh, I haven't got enough eggs. Oh, I haven't got enough cards to put the eggs on. Oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
So, yes, it does require some planning, but again, it's... Once your engine's out, as you say, Steve, it is a bit easier to actually plan ahead and what you want to do. But I actually find the game takes a little too long to build up, in a way. I find the first round a little slow, in a way. Not just because you get 8 actions to do instead of the 5 at the end of the game, but you're actually basically just acquiring resources at that point to try and play cards. Because you start the game. There's an interesting mechanic actually at the start of the game where you basically get 5 cards and 5 resources. And you get to choose whichever card you like, but whichever card you want to choose, you have to sacrifice one of the food resources. So you've got this... There's actually quite a decent choice actually at the start of the game. So I found usually it's best to keep either 2 or 3 cards, depending on what they are. I think if you go all in and keep 5, you're going to be fairly crippled because you won't have any food. And if you don't keep any, you won't have any cards to play, so you'll not really be able to plan further ahead. So that's quite nice. But I do find it takes a little bit long to get any form of engine going. Because you play 1 card, fine. You play 2 cards, okay, you can possibly get food and eggs. But then you need some more cards, and then you need some more food to play those cards. And then, so the engine works well. I just think it takes a little bit too long to build it.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's a little bit slow to kind of kick off, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all it is, yeah.
What's your overall thoughts of it then? I mean, I've only played it twice now, so I still really need to play it a few more times before I can commit.
I've played it 3 times now, with a 2, a 4, and a 5. So I've covered the spectrum of player sizes. I like it, but I don't find it that exciting.
I think I'm going to agree with you there as well.
Good grief. Laura really likes it. And she says, "Do you want to play it? I'll happily play it." It's not a game that I despise, and I think it's a good game for our sort of Bewdley gaming group because it's not too heavy and it's easy to teach, etc., etc. But I find it... Now, I'm going to probably shoot myself in the foot here. I find it a bit straightforward to keep my attention, because I don't find the decisions in it particularly difficult, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but for the longer term, it's something I probably would only play now and again if somebody stuck it down in front of me. It's not a game I would probably necessarily choose to play.
Okay. I wouldn't quite go that far, but I kind of agree with most of what you said. It's a game, as I said, Amanda wanted it and Amanda really likes. And I got to admit, if she suggested playing it, I would definitely not say no.
Mm-hmm. I
I kind of agree. It's not that it's too light. It's a nice game and it runs really nicely. It's just I don't know. I think my game taste means that I'm looking for something with a bit more meat in there. I'm looking for something with that kind of really important chew it over decision.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm driving at. Yeah, exactly. It's the decision you make. It's literally you're choosing between essentially 3 actions most of the time, unless you want to put a card down.
Yeah.
And those actions are really straightforward. You know what you're going to get. You know how long it takes. It's like, bang, choice of 1 or 3, and you have very little control over whatever happens after that. So you get your column of, or sorry, your row of things. So you know what you're going to have. And then that's it.
I think it's better with the nasty rules.
Mm-hmm. There's more competition.
I think it's more competition, and you have to keep your eye on things. You have to really refine your engine and get the right cards out in order to be top of that pile. And sometimes you even have to make some tactical decisions and say, right, well, stuff that objective. I'm not going to do that in time. I'm going to spend my effort on getting the objective that's going to kick off next round, or even the round after that, and completely tramps everyone.
Yes, that's actually you've just reminded me of something that I don't dislike, but I find is a bit annoying, is that a lot of the objective cards are based on having a specific type of bird, or having a bird's name with like a country in it, or a place, or a colour or something. And that you are horribly at the mercy of whichever cards come out.
Yes. This is for the personal objectives, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we found some of the personal objectives to be a little bit... They feel unbalanced.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that.
The very first game we played, it was like, I think I got points for every bird that eats rats. And I can't remember what Amanda had, but basically I could get 15 points from this objective if I'd done well. And I think I got something like 9. I got a lot of points from it, whereas Amanda's objective would only allow her to get 7 points and no more.
Yeah, it's probably something similar to one I had. Like I have I think it was a colour in the name of the bird.
Yeah.
Something like that, because there's ones for like places and colours and sizes, whatever it is. And I was like, well, okay, that's great, but I only got 2 out because none of them came out in the deck, or someone had lifted them before I got to have my go. And I thought, well, there was literally nothing I could do about that. I tried to get as many down as I could, but ultimately, again, even if I'd have got 4, I think it was, I'd have only got 7 points. I couldn't do any more than that. And when you're playing... Because it's quite a friendly game in the scoring, because Stonemaier do that. They always do this positive reinforcement approach. A lot of people, unless you really tank it, were fairly close scoring. So, 3 or 4 points can actually make the difference between winning and losing. Not that I'm competitive or anything, but...
Yeah. No, it's as I said, it's... I like it, but it's going to be interesting if we're still going to be talking about this come our end of the year discussion.
Honestly, I don't think we will, but...
In 6 months' time, are we going to have forgotten about this? Or will we suddenly find that because it's light and we can play it with loads of people, we'll end up bring it to the table all the time? Will it become like a new Azul or something like that,
Yeah, I think... I suspect it'll be a fairly firm staple of our Bewdley group, just because it's a good length and it's easy to teach and people seem to quite like it, and it's pretty, it's... So all of that, I suspect we'll be playing it in 6 months' time. Or at least people I know will be playing it. Whether I am or not, I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see.
No, it's an interesting thing, because I always compare what games I've played the most over the year to what I think are the best games of the year.
Yes.
And it's usually 2 completely different lists, because the games I really enjoy tend to be too complicated for most people. Whereas the games I play the most tend to have a reasonable balance of complexity and fun, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they're more accessible, and because do you want to play Twilight Imperium? Because you need to book a day off. Whereas, do you want to play Game of Trains or High Society? Yeah, totally, because it takes 20 minutes. So it is more accessible. I know what you mean, because I've still got Ave Roma and Agra sat on my shelf gathering dust because no bugger wants to play them, despite the fact that I really, really like playing them. Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so that's Wingspan. I think, as I said, the synopsis is we both like it, but it's just lacking in something.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost vindicating my original response to it, actually, because if you cast your mind back for when it was originally teased on Instagram, there was a couple of these little eggs that Jamie posted out going, oh, we have a new game in the works. Oh, really? And then we learned a bit more about it, and we had a look. Oh, again, there's a new game come from Stonemaier. You'll be all over it. What is it? Oh, it's a card-based engine builder. What? And I was like, oh, I'm not actually that bothered. And now that I've played it, I like it, like you. But again, I'm not that bothered by it. I don't hate it. It absolutely works. It's mechanically, it's very, very sound. It's very beautiful. It's well made, and it's reasonably good fun to play. You know, it's got all the hallmarks of a decent game. But I agree with you. It is lacking something. It's not as good as Viticulture. I don't think it's as good as Euphoria. It's definitely not as good as Scythe. I mean, okay, Scythe's heavier, but it's not those games.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Well, speaking of something you can really get your teeth into, I played A Feast for Odin this week.
Get your teeth into a feast. So I see what you did there, Steve.
Yeah, double meaning there. Yeah,
you didn't intend that, did you?
I did.
Okay.
I'm hurt.
My apologies.
So this is the Uwe Rosenberg game that many people have probably heard of and played that are listening, but if you haven't, you're a Viking tribe, and the best way to describe it is polyominoes and what you're trying to do, really. Although there are many ways to get points, we found that the major way of getting points was actually not getting negative points, because you have a little player board in front of you that has lots of -1s on it.
Ooh.
And you ideally need to fill and cover up all those -1s. There are many, just like any heavy euro worth its salt, and should I say salted meat? And this is a heavy euro. It comes in a massive box and weighs an absolute ton because of all the chits in it. There are other ways you can get points. You can get points for building longboats. You can get points for colonizing other islands. You can get points for building little huts that are like extra boards. You can go grab the Iceland board and try and put items on that, or the Greenland board. There are other things you can do, but as I said, we only played the first game, so we ignored several of the points avenues because it got a little bit too complicated. And I found concentrating on this little main board was the way to do it. And the way you do that is you get items and put them on your board. But items have got this little weird hierarchy system. So you basically have 2 types of food and then 2 types of items.
Right.
And you can't put food on your main board. You have to only put your food on the board, which allows you to feed people, because it's Uwe Rosenberg, so just like Agricola and that, you have to feed your Vikings.
Well, of course,
so you have to do a little feast. And they're fussy buggers, so they don't like having the same thing twice. So you've got there's certain rules about... I've already had one bit of broccoli, I don't want any more.
Nice.
So you have to manipulate the way they do things. I didn't care. I had 100 cows. I was feeding these Vikings milk, and they were having milk whether they bloody liked it or not. But it's basically like protein and veg. You can't give them all protein. You can't give them all veg. You've basically got to alternate between protein and veg, protein and veg.
Nice.
It's quite clever, actually. The main things you can put on your board are crafted items, treasured. I wouldn't say treasures, but better items, and then treasures, because treasures is like a separate thing on the board. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but what you basically do is you need to get a little engine going where you'll get an item, and then later on you'll upgrade that item, and then that item will, with this action, will allow you to do something else, which will allow you to do something else. So the simplest way to explain it is, I got a couple of cows. I could do the cow action in order to get some milk, and the milk could then be traded into cloth, and the cloth could be traded into, I think it was copper.
Right.
So that's like 5 actions I've got to get to take milk into copper. But my board was full of this bloody copper and silk. And it was working a charm, I tell you. I don't want to go into more detail on that because it is ridiculously complicated. I mean, there must have been 40 worker placement spots you could go to.
Jesus Christ!
And these are all in columns. So the first column costs you 1 worker, the second 2, the third 3, the fourth 4. So So you have 7 workers, you think, I've got 7 options. Then realise all the decent options cost you 4 workers. It's like, well, if I use that, I'm going to have 2 actions around, and that's it. So it's proper heavy. Each round is working out where best to put your workers, where best to optimise things. Like the other thing I didn't mention is there's cards. There's cards which I think are occupations, and you can use the occupations to give you bonuses. But you've got to go to the higher level worker placement spots to grab the cards, and you've got to go to the highest level worker placement spot, which is the 4-person, to play the cards.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a balance between putting cards out, and like I didn't get any ships to begin with. I was playing against Adam, and Adam was building loads of ships and then using the ships to send his people off to different colonies to start colonies, which meant that he had to feed less people because all of his people were the arse end of nowhere, but also meant he was getting all these extra victory points. But he wasn't concentrating on his main board, so I thought he was getting loads of points. But he only got like minus 30 at the end of the game.
Wow, not the strategy then.
I think you would absolutely love this.
I think you're right, because it does sound reminiscent of Caverna. Not entirely the same, but it sounds like there are common elements between it. Like billions of choices and putting some tiles down. In Caverna, obviously, you build a mine. So you just put these little choices of tiles down in little rooms that can do various different things. And you've got diamond mines and all this sort of jazz down. So yes, it sounds similar. It's
got elements. If you've played... I think if you play any Uwe Rosenberg game, you can see like the DNA of all the previous games he's designed. You got, like as I said, you got to feed your Vikings, but it's nothing like Agricola where you're sweating at the end of every round, hoping you can scrabble together enough food to survive the round.
I had the same problem in Caverna. Almost every time feeding my dwarves is a pain in the ass. So one game I just decided to breed pigs. I had millions of pigs. You're eating pigs whether you like it or not. Get them down, you.
See, I'd never actually played Agricola on the board. I've got the iPad app. And I swear that game, the actual getting victory points, I never bother with because I'm too busy trying to feed my bloody family. I'm hoping that I'll just have some points left over.
Yes, that's it. It is difficult. There's a lot going on. But there's also the fact that I've discovered that I'm really crap at games like that. So it's,
Well, I need to play against you then.
Yes, yeah, we can play. We can play like the sort of Vauxhall Conference League at the bottom, where getting 10 points will be considered good, whereas the really good players are getting 100. Oh God, that reminds me. Actually, we played a game of Great Western Trail at the weekend with Dan, Luke, and James. All of these people are really good at Euros, especially Dan. And it turns out that you and I, Steve, have been playing Great Western Trail very wrongly.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, there was something like we played it for about 25 minutes and discovered that every single one of us around that table had been playing it wrong in the past. So we'd all missed at least one rule each. So we all basically just got about 20 minutes in and thought, no, we have to start again. We've messed this up too much. So we had to roll it back and go, right, are we all agreed on these rules now? Okay, let's go. Anyway, so we all played through it. And it was, I really enjoyed Great Western Trail. It's a brilliant game. But I am so bad at it. Everyone else got... Dan actually came third, hilariously enough. We thought he was running away with it. Luke won with like 113 points. James came second with something like 103. Dan got 99. And I was bringing up the rear with a valiant 58. Got absolutely trounced. The sad thing is, I think that's the best game of it I've played so far.
Oh, dear.
Although they have played it a lot more than I have. But good Lord, I don't know. I'm so inefficient at it.
So what was the rule we were getting wrong then?
The many rules that you and I got wrong were...
Oh, okay, fair enough. If there's many...
Oh, yeah. There was the one where, we played at the... You get a little train at the top, and you have to... When you sell your cows, you put a token on one of the stations. Yeah. We were playing it, only one person could put a token on that. Yeah, everyone can put one down. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. You can only put one of your own colour on each station, but everyone can put a token on each of those stations. Not the ones with the bonuses, just the regular sort of Topeka and...
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah. Oh, I didn't realise that.
Yep,
okay, fair enough.
That helps. And then when you get the bonusy stations on the other side of the track, when you get that and you pay for it, you have to put one of your own workers, not just the disc, but the actual staff that you hire, the cowboys or the engineers. You have to put one in the place of the bonus token that you have. Yeah, you look surprised there too. So I'm not going mad. I'm pretty sure we didn't do that. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The Indians, when you trade with them, that instead of picking up from left to right like we did, you can pick whichever one you want.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, neither did I.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have a rematch because that was clearly the reason I didn't win, he says,
yes.
having not won. I think they were the ones that mostly we got wrong. Beyond that, I think we got it right. But they do make a bit of a difference.
It's a valid point, actually, that you learn the rules once and then you often forget that you may have got them wrong the first time. So I do think it's actually often worth rereading the rule book before you play something again.
Definitely. Or playing it with 3 different groups and discover that every single one of you have been playing it wrong.
See, what I find weird about that is I didn't think the rule book for Great Western Trail was that bad. But the fact you get 4 different interpretations of the rules from 4 different parties suggests that maybe it is not as good as we thought.
It's the problem with Great Western Trail, I think. Mechanically, it's quite straightforward. Just move your little token and do the icon. But there's so much bitty stuff around it that you just forget it. That's the problem. It's and then trying to find it in the rulebook is a pain in the ass because there's quite a lot to it. That's the issue with it. It's difficult to find things in the rulebook. It's not badly written because when you read the text, you go, "Oh yeah, that's actually quite clear."
Yeah,
it's just
that's fair enough.
Yeah, it's just there's lots of bits to remember, and just we're only human and we're getting old. Oh, that's right. Yes, there's another one we got wrong. Laura's just informed me that you can't take. When you populate the little worker market on the left every time you sell cows, there's a little turn marker that sits there. You're not allowed to take workers from that row either.
Oh well, okay. Don't get anything right in that game.
I don't think we did, mate. No, we need to play it again.
Okay, fair enough. We need to start again.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we did badly there. But it's a good game nonetheless. I do enjoy it.
My excuse is my copy of the rules are in German.
That might be what it is. Yes, you failed badly there.
I saved myself £5.
Was it worth it though?
Obviously not.
Buy cheap, buy twice, mate.
Yeah.
Or play cheap, play twice.
So what have you been playing then, Mr. Lewis?
Well, we have mentioned it on a previous podcast, the Expo one, in fact, where I dropped a reasonable amount of money on a game I've had my eye on for a little over 12 months now, and that is Too Many Bones from Chip Theory Games. Now, this is branded as a, quote, a dice builder RPG, and if I describe it, you are now going to correct it and go, that's not an RPG. Because it isn't.
No.
Because, not in the strictest sense of the word, it's more like a video RPG. So you still have character development in the sense that you can upgrade your characters as you go along, but there's no role-playing.
Right,
so,
okay.
I'll get that bee out of your bonnet before we start. But Too Many Bones is, yes, it's a dice builder RPG. You play as one of a little race of beings known as Gearlocks. Not Grimlocks, as I mentioned before. These are Gearlocks. And they're kind of a cross between goblins and elves.
Okay.
But they're good. But they're obsessed with technology. But kind of steampunkish technology. So big axes, pipes, cobbling bits of scrap together, things like that. So it's a weird universe where it has kind of technology, like things like syringes and stuff, but it doesn't have laser guns and things. So they can make grenades, but they can't make shotguns.
Okay.
It's a strange, but it works. It's a nice little sort of setting. So I mean, most of it's kind of almost like a cross between the 1800s and steampunk. So it's kind of that sort of feel. Anyway, so the idea is the Grimlocks are being persecuted by a bad guy, what you choose to face at the start of the game. So when you're setting the game up, you choose your character you want to play, and you get these wonderful neoprene mats with all of these little slots in them. Yeah. And they hold all of these dice, and there are, I shit you not, 132 dice in the base box.
Okay.
Just in the base box. Now, I have considerably more than the base box. Because each gearlock, each character you have, has its own unique set of dice. Now, most of these are used as trackers or counters rather than anything else. They're not like D6s or D20s or anything like that. So they all have all these wonderful custom symbols on them, and every set of symbols is different. They're all coloured and symboled and numbered and stuff according to which particular character you want. So you never use all of the dice at the same time. But the idea is that you go through the game and you have everything's based around poker chips. So each character has a picture on a really high quality poker chip. You've got turn markers on poker chips, you've got day counters, health chips, all of these are all nice poker chips. And you stack them all up. So if you saw Cloudspire at Expo, the idea was that, you get that stack where you've got your character, your hero on top, and then you've got upgrades, and then you've got hit points at the bottom, and you just basically knock hit points out, and you reduce your stack if you take damage. And that's basically the way it works. And the game is encounter-based. So you make this deck at the start of the game of a bunch of random encounters. There's a deck of about 30 in the base game of these encounters, so you'll choose somewhere between about 8 and 10 of them, depending on which bad guy you choose to face at the end of it, because it depends on what game length you want, how hard you want it to be, etc., etc., etc. And you make this little deck. There's a couple of what they call tyrants. You put a couple of those in the deck, so every now and again you'll encounter like a bad guy encounter, which is slightly harder. And the idea is basically you have a day, and on a day you'll have an encounter. An encounter will usually involve a couple of a decision, so a choice of 1, 2, or 3 effects. Some of those things might involve a fight, some of them might not, and you kind of go through the game, and depending on which choice you choose, you get certain rewards, like a character upgrade or a box of loot or whatever it is. And then once you've got enough of these cards, you have enough advancement tokens on them, so enough advanced tokens on them. You get enough of these symbols that you can take on the big bad. Basically, that's how it works. And there's a time limit on the game, so your big bads, like say you've got 12 days to meet them. If you fail your encounter, you'll still track on a day, but you won't necessarily get the benefit of the encounter. So there's a time limit to how long the game can take. And then you can upgrade your character. So you've got base stats, attack, defense, health, and dex, which is basically the number of dice you can roll. And then you've got a bunch of these skills, and this is where all of these custom dice come in. And there's millions of them. Some of them are trees, so it's almost like a tech tree, but they're all unique to each character. So there's a lot of learning to be done. And character optimization. Now, thankfully, the game does say, look, for beginners, these are the stats that you want to build up initially. These are the things you want to go for, and then to build up your character, and then just sort of branch out from there. The fighting system is really straightforward, actually. You've only got this sort of grid of a 4x4 grid. Half of it is your area, half of it is the enemy's area. They set up depending on the type of attack they make. So the melee attacks go at the front, ranged attacks go at the back. There's no line of sight or anything like that. It's literally, you can just move around the board if you want to. Most things will stay still. And you basically just roll to attack, roll to defend. You roll a bunch of dice depending on what your dex is. So that defines how many dice you roll. And you can roll a combination of attack dice, defense dice, and skill dice. It's fairly free form in that sense. So you can run a little bit of teamwork together. Right, I'll move here and beat the crap out of him. If it doesn't go well, you can run in, or you can do this, and so on and so forth. So, but the rulebook is bloody awful. It's really hard to find stuff, and when you're reading it, it's one of those situations where you're reading something thinking, oh yeah, this makes sense. This is great, and then you come to actually implement it, and you go, I have no idea how any of this works. But it is ridiculously good fun.
Okay.
I love it. I think it is brilliant. And I think you will too.
Okay.
And I think John will love it more.
Right, okay.
But it's just great fun. There's not an enormous amount of strategizing over it. I think the fun is in the tension of getting the right dice rolls or implementing the right skills at the right time. Because once you've used a skill, genuinely exhausted for the fight, you can't use it again. So most of them are one-shots. But some of the character abilities can build over the course of a fight, or you get little consumables you can use once every now and again, or there are some dice you can lock into position for the entire battle, and they'll give you a benefit, like you'll regenerate health every round, or you'll get a better defense, or whatever it is. So there's loads of little tweaks like that, and you'll never get the same game twice, because you're using a different deck of your different shuffled-in encounters, you've got different skills you can pick up. Obviously the different characters you can have different skill sets, so there's so many combinations of things that make it just keep it fresh every time, and I really like it.
Yeah. Okay. Because I didn't think it would be a type of game you liked, Don't know why.
I know. I'm quite surprised as well, but I think it's the story again. I'm a sucker for a story.
Right.
So each encounter has this massive big block of flavour text. Now, obviously, once you've played the game a few times, you'll start to see a few of the same cards every now and again. But they'll be in a different order, so it doesn't really matter that much. But ultimately, you're trekking through the land, having different encounters, and then ultimately, big showdown with the big bad. But unlike something like Dark Souls, it's not grindy, because you can't stay on the same encounter every time. You'll move to the next one, and then there'll be something else to deal with.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Okay.
It is really good fun. Now, obviously, I've expanded it a lot. I've got a choice of 8 characters rather than 4 now, because I've got all the little extra characters as well, which keeps, things moving. But to be honest, I'm sticking to the base characters at the moment while I play through and get used to the game. But there's plenty to do with those 4. So I love it. I think it's a really, really well implemented game. As I say, the rulebook's not great and not very clear at times, and it's a pain in the backside to find things. And as Mr. P. Grogan pointed out to me, which he's right, there's a lot of rules on the specific character cards that you get as well that aren't in the rule book. So you basically get an extra sheet with your neoprene map that has all of the effects that your dice do and all of this sort of stuff that comes with the character. And it's like reading a novel before you start. Yeah, there's a lot going on in it. So you've got to play it at least once or twice before you really get used to how the characters work. But once you got through that, it is great fun. Because it's fast moving. Each turn really doesn't take very long at all. It's literally just move your little counter if you want to. Roll your dice to attack. Decide what you want to do with it. Next person.
Cool. I'll have to give this a go because it does look pretty. And to be fair, it sounds like it ticks all the boxes of games I like. The only thing it's missing is miniatures on a grid, and I'll be there.
It has poker chips in a stack on a grid, so it's almost there.
There we go. That'll do.
It is. I really think you'll like it. I really do. It's really well made. The quality of the game is absolutely outstanding. Now, I have the 3rd edition of it, which is what happened because it's been kickstarted in the past. There has been a recent Kickstarter for yet more expansions for it.
God.
I will not comment as to whether I took part in that or not.
Well, yeah, you did because Kickstarter grassed you up.
But it's absolutely worth getting. It really is. I mean, it's not cheap. I think the base box is about £93. But what you get in that is immense.
Mm.
So it's really cool. I really, really like it. As you say, I'm stunned I like it as much as I do. Because I was originally attracted to it through the pretties, basically. But I'm very glad I went for it. I've played it now something like 8 or 9 times in 2 weeks. Oh,
blimey. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's soloable then, is it?
Yeah, totally, because it's a co-op. What I've been doing is basically just sort of having 2 or 3 characters in front of me and just going through the game like that. So it kind of sort of scales as you go along, but because it's co-op, it doesn't really matter.
Fair enough. That sounds cool. I see you've been playing Villagers as well.
Yes, we have. We talked about that, again, through the expo. Everyone seemed to pick up a box of that. You weren't that impressed with it, were you?
No, I was.
Oh, you were? Okay, who wasn't?
Yes.
Oh, no, it was Elora. Elora's not that about it. Because she played the demo. She played the demo.
Right.
I know Rory really liked Villagers. Elora played the demo of it at expo. And she said it was okay, but I'd like to play it again because we didn't really get to the end of it and I couldn't really understand what the strategy was because the demo was quite short. I thought, well, fair enough. And it was selling like hotcakes. And it was quite cheap because there was a big discount for Expo. And I thought, right, bollocks to it. It's punt territory. So I bought it. And I'm really glad I did, actually, because I really like it.
I think it's a really good game. Simple, but really good.
Yes. So the overall premise is you're building a village. You have a couple of founders that you start the game with, which are basically just basic cards. And on each card, you have essentially an ability that relies upon 3 basic abilities. You've got like a haymaker, an ore miner, is it? I think it is, and a woodcutter. And you play one of these cards, and on top of these cards, you can play kind of advanced abilities, so like a blacksmith or a wheelwright or a carpenter.
It's like little technology hierarchies.
Yeah.
So yeah, you put a lumberjack in, and on that you can build a cartwright, or you can build on top of that. I don't know, a woodcutter. Sorry, yeah, you cartwright, but a cartwright's like a oh god, I can't remember the examples now. But some of them require other things to be on the board. So Cooper's a good example.
Yes.
Cooper's a good example because you need a lumberjack to make the wood, but you also need a blacksmith around in order to make the metal bands of your barrels for the cooping.
That's right, yes.
And what the game is really so what you do is you make these little branching trees because you can put like 2 characters on each base ability. Like resource gatherer, and you can put these jobs on top of them. And then the summer jobs will stack. So I think the ore one is the interesting one, is it? Because you go to ore, explorer, spelunker, and diamond mine at the very end of it, and you can stack these on things on. And basically, the further up on the stack it is, the more points it's generally worth at the end of the game. But some of those abilities ideally require another profession to be on the board. So the Coopers are one we say it needs a blacksmith. If you've got the blacksmith, then your Cooper pays your blacksmith. So you take money from the bank and put it on your board. If I'm playing and Andy's got a blacksmith, but I haven't, then I have to pay Andy's blacksmith to use him.
Yes.
So when he comes out on the table, I pay him. Now, if there's no blacksmith, you can still play, but you've got to pay the bank, which we didn't quite get the first time we played, but that makes a massive difference. Yeah. The rest of the professions are just in this massive stack of deck, which, of course, is randomized, so there's no chance of knowing when they're going to come out. And you can also, there's what are they called? They're the individuals. There's people who don't belong to one of these kind of hierarchies of jobs, which generally give you bonus points at the end of the game.
Yes, yeah, so they're kind of what they're called uniques or something, they're called, aren't they?
Yeah, so they give you, say, points depending on how many jobs you've got that use wood, or how many jobs you've got that create food. Then there's a couple of job hierarchies which are completely in the deck, which confused the hell out of us the first time we played.
Which ones?
It's the winemaking one.
Oh!
So there's a grapper, a vinter, a wine merchant.
Yes.
And all the cards for that profession are in the deck, so they're not available outside of the deck. So you've got to wait for those professions to come up before you can grab them. First game we played, we had like the Vinter. So one of us got the Vinter in their hand at the first round, and the grappers didn't turn up until the very end of the game. And it was all of a sudden like, that's how it's supposed to work.
Yes. I had something similar, although I knew how it was going to work. That I ended up with actually a grapper and a winemaker and a merchant, actually. I just kind of put it down as like, I wasn't confused at all, but then again, I am a genius. But I had something similar with the jeweler. You mentioned it a minute ago. And I had the miner, and eventually I got the searcher, I think it's called.
Yeah.
But I had the jeweler, but I didn't have the spelunker, and I waited for the entire game for a flipping spelunker to come out, and literally the last card in the market pull out. Yes! Bang, down the spelunker goes. And I won the game by a point.
And what makes this game kind of fun is that some of those profession trees, there are multiple cards in the deck. So I think there's like 2 or 3 blacksmiths, and then some of the ones later on, like the bed makers, there's several. But like the diamond, the whole line of getting your diamond mine, there's only one of each of those cards in the entire deck. So once you know this, the first time you play this, you're there going, "Oh right, okay, this is all how it works." Second time you're playing this is like, I have the spelunker. There is no way in hell I'm letting the spelunker out of my sight.
Absolutely not.
I don't care that it's wasting my hand and I could have burnt this for something else, because somebody else has no doubt got the searcher and the diamond mine in their hand, or the jeweler, sorry, in their hand, waiting for this spelunker to come out. So I'm going to hold on to it as tightly for as long as possible and screw everyone else.
Yes. No,
it's amazing fun.
Yes, it is simple and yet really, really good. There's a lot of big decisions in the game. There's a lot of choices to make. Despite the fact you got a random card market, there's a lot of control over what you do with it, which is the good thing.
Yes.
And that's nice. There's a nice balance of random and choice, which is great. I think there's just enough there that makes you, as you say, the meaningful decision.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, you get you open in your hand the cards, and you go, "Oh, hang on, I've got 2 of the chain here. I'm going to go for them. I'm going to go for them because they're worth big points at the end of the game." And about a third of the way through the game, you're like, "Well, I need to burn one of these cards to get a lumberjack out. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do this, this, and this." And you're like,
Yeah.
And the really amazing thing, and I really do like this concept, is when you burn a card from your hand, it doesn't go into a discard pile. It goes face down onto another deck. So if you're crafty, you can bring that card back into your hand later on.
I don't think I ever did that.
Yeah, because it's when you burn a card to bring one of like the basic professions out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back onto deck. So if you're really crafty, you can put a card out and in the next round pick it back up again.
Yes, I remember what you mean. You're basically just doing a swap. So you put your card back in the market. But you can't put it on a previous stack. But yeah, you're right. You can put it on an existing stack at some point. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I know what you mean now. Yeah.
So then there's this kind of, well, I'm going to try and wait patiently, see if I can get that spelunker back,
and hope that no one else picks it up.
To which somebody else picks up and goes, "Ooh, the spelunker! I've been looking for that."
Yes. No, it's a really clever game.
Yeah, it's a game where I don't think you can have a strategy at the beginning and stick to it. You've got to change your mind several times, and that, in fact, makes it so interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You've got to adapt to keep going, and getting a couple of nice professions early on is good as well. You know, getting the blacksmith early on is quite nice, and I think there's another profession which everyone pays, which is really quite nice.
Carpenter,
but the really cool thing about the game is it only scores twice as well.
Yeah, it's the 2 scoring opportunities. So you've got the 2 markets. So there's 5 decks of these cards that you can draw, and you go basically one from decks left to right, and you just draw in order. But when you get to the end of the second deck, you get a market, and that scores you a bunch of points. So basically, every card that you have will have like a number of points awarded, so you get some cash. Then you go again to the end of the game. The same thing happens, but the further down these tech trees you get, the more points you get. So it's in your interest to build these tech trees, so you get more points from them. And it works really well.
It does.
For a game that was, I think we got the whole lot, including all of the Kickstarter expansions and stuff. I think it was about £40 for the lot.
Yeah, does that include the wooden coins as well?
Yeah, for everything. And it all fits neatly inside its one box. It's really well designed. The artwork's great. It's
quite quirky, isn't it?
It is, yes. It's almost Quentin Blake, but not quite.
One thing I didn't notice at first as well, which is quite a nice thing, is the basic occupation cards are double-sided.
Yes.
It's male on one side and female on the other.
Oh, that's quite good. I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah, you don't notice it because I just saw the jobs.
Yeah.
But it's only when they got shuffled, when they got accidentally shuffled up, it's like, oh, hang on.
Oh, yeah. As a lady, that'll do. And a chap. Oh, they're holding hands together. There we go. That'll do. They're a nice couple. But no, that's quite good. That's good. Maintaining the old equality, which is great. No, it's a really great game. Really like it. So Alora's not overly keen on it, weirdly. I thought she'd quite like it, but she seems ambivalent. She didn't hate it, but surprisingly meh about it. But oh well.
Oh well. We'll enjoy it.
We will indeed. I think it'll be another good game for our gaming group, actually, because it's not it's not too heavy. It's easy to explain.
Yeah, Amanda absolutely loves it. Amanda's desperate to get hold of the playmat that was on the stands, which is not available for sale at this time.
No, indeed. We'll have to talk very nicely to some people for that.
So yes, that's Villagers from Sinister Fish Games. Me and Andy really love that game. Yeah. And I think we'll be talking about that again, because I have a funny feeling John's going to love that game as well. And we know Roll Jordy does, so...
Possibly a 4 for 4.
All right then, folks. We have plenty of questions in the mailbag. So, should we just go top to bottom, Andy?
Why not? Oh, we're starting with Mr. Mark Cook. Why is he at the top? I don't know. Which games solidified your love of the hobby?
Oh, that's a difficult one.
It is a difficult one. I've got a couple of games that spring to mind, but I'm going to have to consider my answer. I think Viticulture's got to be up there for me, because that's a game that I fell in love with. Mine and Alora is pretty much our favourite game between the two of us. We play it loads. Doesn't mean I'm any good at it, but we play it loads. And I think it just has everything about that a board game should have. We've said that we've talked about the meaningful decisions. It's got lovely artwork. It's chunky. It's not. I don't think it's particularly heavy. If you're a newcomer to games, then yes, it will be. But once you're used to playing that type of game, it becomes quite accessible. Especially the base game of Viticulture. That's really easy. And then, you bastard, you got me into Mansions of Madness. That is another one that has solidified it for me. That is an incredibly fun game.
I would say solidified, as in, was one of the earliest games I got, which is probably Dominion, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dominion was the game where it was completely a punt, because I'd played Carcassonne, and I played it a lot on the Xbox, and then we played the board game of it and really liked it. And I remember going into some board game shops, and I'd seen Arkham Horror, but Arkham Horror was this big expensive thing back then, because it was £50.
Still is.
You know, that was a big investment. That was £50.
Yeah.
You know, that's punt territory now, for crying out loud. But Dominion was about 25 quid at the time.
Oh, wow.
You won't be able to blood. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And I was like, well, Arkham Horror, that's a bit expensive, that. Oh, let's try this Dominion. It's a card game. Oh, it's a deck building game. Ooh, this is a bit weird. This is a bit different. Let's give this a go. Well, suffice to say, I then bought another Dominion expansion within about 2 weeks, and bought all the promo cards off the Board Game Geek store the following week. I don't know what it was, but something about it just went, yep, this is it. This is me now. I'm in. Board games, I'm in. You've sold me.
Yeah, I have to admit, when you brought Dominion round to mine a couple of years ago, it was one of the first deck builders I ever played, and I really enjoyed it. Laura destroyed us at it, but I really enjoyed it.
See, now, it's like you look back at it and you kind of go, oh, there's much better deck builders, or there's games like Great Western Trail, we mentioned earlier, that use the deck building strategy, but I'd still go back to Dominion. To me, it's like it's deck building in its purest form. There's something I still like about that.
Yeah.
So, Sven Hanneman asks, what video game IP do you want to see made into a game, and what mechanics would it use?
I was thinking about this afternoon when he asked the question, and I still don't know. I was thinking at the time, Thief. Thief would be amazing as a board game, because it's a fantastic computer game. It's unique in many ways, and I think turning that into a board game would be really, really good. The problem is, I haven't got a bloody clue how it would work.
See, now, I've got a board game called Age of Thieves, which has elements of that. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to steal a gemstone out of a palace, but it's 4 players. So it's the first one to get the gemstone out of the palace and off the board. And you've got several things that are in kind of the Thief games. You've got ways to distract guards and ways in which you can send the guards after other people. It's silly in many ways, but it's quite fun. And I've only played it 2-player, unfortunately. So I played it against Adam, I played it against Amanda, and we both even Amanda enjoyed it almost for its silliness. But I'd like to play it with 3 or 4 players, because really it's a 4-player game, and I'd like to see the chaos that ensues with a 4-player game. I would say, from an RPG point of view, Adam kindly gave me the rulebook for Blades in the Dark, which I'm trying not to rustle in the microphone here, and that specifically references Thief as an influence point.
That's because it's one of the best games ever made, in my not so humble opinion.
No. So most video games I'm a massive fan of have already been kind of made into board games. I mean, some okay and some not so well.
Dark Souls, sorry.
Yeah, and I always think that sometimes an RPG is a better way to turn a video game into a tabletop game anyway, because you've got a bit more freedom. But I'd like to see a way in which you could do the planetary exploration part of Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2 into a board game.
That's curiously specific.
It is very curiously specific, but I seem to spend a long time in Mass Effect 2 scouting planets.
Yeah, I did that as well, thinking I need loads of stuff, and then worked out once I'd sort of got loads of stuff, I didn't actually need loads of stuff because I couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah, true.
I find it quite cathartic to go around all of these planets and just basically strip mine them. I can see what you mean. Yeah. I was thinking, actually, just then Elite would be really quite good for that as a board game, but I've no idea how you'd work, because Elite's enormous and it's got so many bits to it. But how you'd manage that in a board game, I don't think it would work.
I'm still waiting for a version of something similar to XCOM. I know XCOM, the board game, has been made, and it's more a board game influenced by XCOM, I think, than an XCOM board game.
Yeah.
But I think I'd like to see an XCOM board game. But I'm not quite sure whether I want to see the kind of global management side of it, similar to XCOM 2, or the kind of miniatures combat side of it. Because the miniatures combat side is basically Infinity or something like that. But maybe like a sci-fi version of Gloomhaven would work that way.
Ooh, that would be nice. Just reskin Gloomhaven with some laser pew-pew.
Maybe, and some bits in between where you manage your character.
Well, if Mr. Childress is listening to this, there's an idea for you.
Well, actually, it sounds not too dissimilar to what Shadowborn games are doing with Oathsworn, which is the one with the giant rat we mentioned in the last one, so a pew-pew version of that as well.
That'd be good fun. I don't really know whichever, because I haven't actually played any computer games for bloody ages. We can leave it.
See, the last game I played a lot of, actually, I haven't long completed Horizon Zero Dawn. And I really, really liked Horizon Zero Dawn, but the board game of it looks pants. It really looks like someone's just... It's almost like as if someone made a Horizon Zero Dawn board game without actually playing the video game.
Right.
And they've just gone, here's some pretty miniatures. Oh, yeah, you hunt some dinosaurs. No, that's not how it works. You should be scanning them to get weaknesses. There you go. A Horizon Zero Dawn board game that actually mimics the mechanics of the actual video game, where you have to analyze the robotic dinosaurs before you can target explosive parts of them. There we go.
Okay.
During which time you're trying to analyze them, they're trying to kill you, of course, so you're wasting valuable actions.
Ooh, Homeworld would be good.
Ooh, that could be a good strategy management game, couldn't it?
Indeed. Oh yes. It'd be bloody hard. I mean, it's kind of Eclipse without all of the sort of 4X nonsense. It's just the X. But I think that would be quite good, although it would be very limited. Because the good thing about Homeworld is the story. Or one of the many good things about Homeworld is the story. Oh well. I don't know, because I think a lot of the ones that could translate into board games recently have been done. So Civilization, SimCity's taking the form of either Big City or Magnate. Fallout's been done. Age of Empires has been done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I'd say they're running out. They're not running out, I'm sure. I just can't think of any off the top of my head now that would probably translate well. I
don't play the games, but I still think someone's got to crack the MOBA board game. I don't think I've seen one that truly does that yet. We've talked about Too Many Bones. We mentioned Cloud Spire at the last episode. I don't think, as a group, we weren't overly impressed with it. It didn't seem to tap into that MOBA properly. So anyone that can kind of get that in board game form to work, and I think that's the point. There's got to be a leap made somewhere. I also think. Now, I don't play myself, but my wife Amanda plays a lot of World of Warcraft, so she does the raids. And again, this is actually going back to a little bit of Oathsworn. I think a board game that can replicate that kind of MMO raid could work quite well. The whole thing about using powers that cool down and taking on a big boss, but after you've done so much damage to the big boss evolves into something else, and something else happens. That kind of almost like semi-scripted encounter. To be fair, that sounds like what Oathsworn are trying to do. So,
okay, interesting.
Another reason why I'm looking forward to Oathsworn.
Do you know, if somebody put that on Kickstarter, they'd have to have a character called Leroy Jenkins as an add-on or something. Okay. Sven also asks, as a follow-up, if you were stranded on an island and each could save just one game from the wreckage, who would you eat first? Now, I'm confused. I know English is not Sven's first language, but his grasp of English is better than that.
Well, I think everyone would eat me first, wouldn't they?
You are the larger of the four of us.
I'd slow roast quite well, I think.
I'll put you in some.
There's
kind
nothing
of
on
large
John.
pot. No, that's true. John would just, John would die first, I think, because there's nothing of him. There's no fat store there.
John would be the chicken wing starter.
Barbecue sauce on top of him.
Yeah, well, I'm like the what's it? I'm like the Wagyu beef, fat and been fed on beer, not exercised.
You'd make a good burger, Steve.
Yeah. Let's be fair. I'm going to be eating first, aren't I?
And he also asks, with the summer coming up, slightly more serious question, what's your favourite outdoor-friendly afternoon game? As in, it gets finished before it gets dark.
Well, based on the weather we've been having the last few weeks, some kind of underwater-themed game,
Yeah.
Into the Maya Marsh, I think.
Deep sea adventure.
Yeah. I don't know. I
very rarely play outside, actually, because either Alora gets cooked by the sun, or you end up actually with all the board components dehydrating. They all warp.
I find the thing is a slight breeze, and most board game components just fly out all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the game, but Hive from Gen 5, is it Gen 42 or Gen 52?
Yeah.
Which is a little like token pieces game. That's quite good for it because they're nice solid pieces. You can basically play that anywhere.
Tatsu's the same. I think it's by the same people, actually.
It's by the same people, yeah. Nice big chunky pieces don't get blown out all over the place.
Yes, that would work. It's only a 2-player game, but it's good. I tell you what, actually, thinking about it, would be really, really good. I don't know if you've played a game called Tak.
Which one's that one? I get confused because there's one is an original game and one's based on a book.
It's based on a book.
Right.
So the idea about Tak, it's basically you play it on a chessboard, but you can play it on pretty much any size board you like, anywhere from 3 to 3x3 up to 8x8, something ridiculous like that.
Yes.
And you have two types of pieces. You have square chits of your colour, either sort of dark or light, and you have a little sort of meeple almost beastie, which can be used to knock down opponent walls, and an opponent wall is where you put the chit on its side. And the idea is that you basically make a path from one side of the board to the other. You can't go diagonally. And the idea is that to control a square, your colour of your piece needs to be on the top of the pile. But you can move a pile and drop bits off it if you control it.
Okay.
It's a really clever game. I played it against Luke over the weekend. He won, but it was a really back and forth, because I completely didn't notice what he was doing, and he just did one move and just beat me. But it took us about 45 minutes to play it, because it was a really back and forth game. Really, really liked it, actually. It's Darren described it as if chess and drafts had a baby.
That makes sense. I mean, I haven't played it, but I've read the Patrick Rufus books, which it comes from.
Yes.
So there's a whole chapter in that where he's learning how to, play Tak. Brilliant books. Absolutely brilliant. I just wish he'd write the rest of them. But he'll take his time. It's all right. He'll do it when he's ready.
Is he a bit like George R.R. Martin?
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think Tak would work, because the pieces are chunky as well, so they wouldn't blow away.
Yeah. So, Capricorn TM asks, do you think that roll and write games could be the next field for legacy games? Or is it something extremely cheap to produce and no big deal to throw away?
No.
I think we're going to see a load more roll and write games over the next 12 months. And everyone's going to move on to everything else. And I think the reason why is because it is cheap to produce. So yes, maybe we'll see roll and write legacy games. In fact, there is an argument that says that the what's it called, Imperial Settlers roll and write could be semi-legacy, because one of the pads is completely unique on each page.
Oh, okay.
So there's one of the pads where it's designed for the solo game, but apparently I've learned since our podcast episode since our Expo episode, you can use that in the multiplayer game, and so everyone's got a bit of variety. And I've also heard of some people already taking it apart and laminating all those sheets so they can play them all over and over again.
Okay. Didn't you weren't that keen on Imperial Settlers though, Roland, right, were you?
No. I wondered whether I've got a rule wrong, and I rewatched Rodney Smith's video and realised I didn't get any rules wrong, and I'm like, okay. I have to try this again because I must be missing something. And it's a game you can try again because it takes like 20 minutes. But yeah, Legacy Roll and Write. I think Legacy Roll and Write would work, but
I don't think it will. Too much luck involved.
Well, no, the whole point of a late roll and write game is you're all working off the same dice. There's no luck.
Oh, okay. I suppose you all got the same thing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the whole idea is you're working off the same resources, so luck doesn't come into it. It's just a random thing which chooses what you're working with for the round.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
So, which in theory means, and I've yet to see this happen, but it does in theory mean that everyone could end up the same score if everyone makes exactly the same decisions throughout the game.
Yeah, you've said that about, is it Railroad Inc? That you and Amanda basically did the same thing, just in reverse.
Yeah. I think we got like one square difference at the end of it. It was like, okay, that's really quite weird. How terrifyingly similar. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm waiting to see what the roll and write is. That the Cartographer's Guild one. That sounds interesting.
Okay.
I'm intrigued to see what Mr. What do you call him? Big Davy T.
Big Davy T.
David T.
Yeah, with Roman Roll. Yeah.
Roman Roll comes up with. So,
that'll be interesting to see what that looks like in its final version. I enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd buy it, but it was an interesting implementation. It was a bit more thinky than your average roll and write, and a bit more to it. There's a bit more going on, but I don't know. It just felt a bit like the roll and write bit was a bit unnecessary. Sorry, the roll bit was a bit unnecessary. Instead of just like drawing a set of cards or whatever, it's just a different implementation of that. But I mean, it worked, so not too bad.
Fair enough. So Ivan B0204 asks, I've been going to Expo for over 5 years and I've seen it change from the cramped but nerdy setup at the Hilton to the S&S trade version at the NEC. We now travel instead of staying on site, as it feels quite different to how it was. Which version do you prefer? You never went to the Hilton, did you?
No, so I can't answer this.
So I'm the only person actually on this podcast, and I don't mean just this episode, because I'm pretty sure neither John nor Rory have been to it when it was at the Hilton. And I looked back, and the first year I went to Expo was the first year it was at the Hilton. And although there's certain aspects of the original Expo at the Hilton I really enjoyed, like the fact that I could see it all, I actually love the big... I love the big well, I don't know what's the word I'm trying to say. Grandiose, that's the one. I love the big grandiose scale of the NEC. I love the fact that it's just hundreds of people like us getting thoroughly bonkers about board games.
It is good. I do like the atmosphere that's in there. Yeah,
I like the atmosphere. I like the fact that it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so more people and more companies are coming over and bringing stuff. I'm loving the fact that companies are actually like debuting stuff at Expo and showing us stuff that we wouldn't have had another chance to see. I really love that. But yeah, I would never consider. I mean, I did consider like a few years back whether I should stay at the Hilton, which was when it was like 250 quid for the weekend.
Yeah, it's a lot more than that now.
Nah, it's a lot more than that. And I said we only live about less than an hour away, so I mean, I think I'm always going to be travelling there each time.
Yeah, I was in two minds as to whether to do that this time, but I thought, nah, I'll just drive. It's easier. And it's just an hour. It's not that far. It just adds an extra hour to the end of the day when you're thinking.
So, Tom Kedwood asked a couple of... Tom Kedwood and Adam Moran both asked the same question, which is, what are your opinions on Splotter games, or have you played any Splotter games?
I have not.
I have played one. I have played one game of Food Chain Magnate. I need to play it again. It's... villagers have that stacking system.
Yes.
Well, that's in Food Chain Magnate.
Oh, okay, right.
So what you're doing is you're filling in occupations, though, and you're also trying to set. Well, basically, the aim of the game is to sell fast food, but it's quite weird because you can't sell fast food until people want fast food, and for them to want fast food, you have to put marketing out. And there's this little tiny board where you've got houses on, and you're advertising slogans on, and you've got to be near certain houses, and you've got to pick a path to your burger van. But you also need a chef. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I want to play again. But there's several weird things about the game which I hope to find out I personally was not massively excited about checking out Splotter anymore.
Okay.
The board did look like it had been designed on an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, I've seen the artwork for Food Chain Magnate, and it didn't excite me.
Clip artwork is the way I'd describe it.
Yes, yeah. Almost sort of Fallout artwork-esque, but not as good.
In some places that works. In some places that the little icons on the cards, that works because it's that kind of 1950s, burger chain magnet kind of thing.
Yeah.
But on the board, it didn't work. So
why? I'm more curious as to. This is not the first time I've seen this question asked actually, and I'm curious as to why they've singled out Splotter. I mean, a Splotter. Have they been singled out to be good, bad, indifferent? Do they make a specific style of game? Because I don't really know much about them.
I think they make a specific kind of game, and their games tend to be rather expensive.
Right. Okay.
Like Food Chain Magnet is €75,
Bloody hell!
and can only be bought from Splotter. You don't tend to find their games in the shops.
Right. Okay.
And they also seem to have. Let's just say the artwork for Food Chain Magnet is probably one of their better looking games.
Ooh.
Road and Boats really does look like a secondary school art project. Etc. looks worse.
Ooh.
I'm not kidding.
Oh,
I'm
God.
not kidding. Go look these up. I mean, they really do look like they have been drawn by someone who's just got their first set of colouring pencils.
Oh, good lord. Okay, interesting.
So yeah, I've not played enough of them to form a real opinion. I've played Food Chain Magnet once, so I think they've got a bit of a cult following. I think that's why they've been mentioned.
Okay, fair enough.
So Benjamin W. Porter asks, amongst the people that you regularly game with, what is a game that is popular with them that you don't really like?
A game I'm rapidly growing to hate, because I've played it far too much now, is Deep Sea Adventure. And also Sushi Go Party. They're not bad games in themselves, but they're too light for me, and because we've played them so much, I'm getting fed up with them.
Okay. I would go for Lanterns.
Yeah, I thought Lanterns was shit as well, actually. I remember you made that revelation a few weeks ago, and I couldn't help but laugh to John's massive disappointment, actually.
Yeah, I think Lanterns is an overly hyped game, and I found that the last 2 or 3 games I played, everyone got the same score, more or less. Yeah, it's like whoever got first off the mark won. So the first person to go to point scoring tile won the game. And it was like, because I think it's a game that's too balanced. The other one, which is a shame because I'm hoping the game would be better when I knew it wouldn't, is the Harry Potter deck building game.
Not being a fan of Harry Potter, I haven't got anywhere near that.
Well, several people I know are fans of Harry Potter, so we've played it a little bit. I mentioned Dominion earlier. Yeah. It's lighter than Dominion.
Ooh, okay.
So it's which I expect because it's a Harry Potter game, so it's going to be available for all. It's really nice rule book actually. It explains everything in really clear, concise manner, and does this whole thing of introducing mechanics as you play. So you play through various years. There's 7 scenarios, and you play through each one based on 7 years in the school. But it is, as I said, it's lighter than Dominion, and it's like I didn't find it challenging at all because it was just I was just playing the cards I have. So
sure.
But several people I know really love Harry Potter. It was still better than the Harry Potter Trivial Pursuits game.
Oh, well, yes, obviously.
Yeah, so I was hoping to get my revenge and play the Star Wars Trivial Pursuit game with them at one point and just trounce them. So how you feel now?
Yes. Philip James Harkey asked this a while ago, actually. We should probably answer it. It won't take long. How deep did Andy end up going on the Elder Dice Pledge Manager? I assume he means for the 3rd of the 3 campaigns. Not that deep. I basically did exactly the same as the last 2. But one thing that annoyed me about it was that they added a 10th dice set, because they come in these nice little sort of threefold boxes. They're very pretty, very lovely, and they come in this nice box set. And there's sets of 3, which is great. And at the end of this third one, because they're all obviously based around the Cthulhu mythos, they've all got the lovely symbols and the elder symbols and stuff. But they introduced a fourth one of this on this sort of box of 3, and I thought, well, that's bloody annoying because this fourth one isn't going to fit into the boxes of 3. So they gave you a choice of which ones you wanted to buy. I thought, well, that's annoying because those of us with completionist ways are really struggling now. So then they snuck in a box to hold 10. I thought, okay, that's fine. What am I going to do with the 2 boxes I've already got that I've actually paid a bit more money for to have this sort of Kickstarter exclusive Doom box thing that they all go in? That's a bit cheeky and dirty. It didn't stop me, but I felt slighted.
That's not good.
No. Anyway, enough about my completionist ways. We should complete this podcast.
We should.
See what I did there.
Yeah, it was clever, that. So, thank you very much for listening, everyone. We have been Polyhedron Collider. If you actually enjoyed this podcast, please give us a review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, and share us with your friends or, more importantly, your enemies. If you want to chat to us, we're on Twitter. I am the man behind the screen, usually on @PolyhedronC or Polyhedron Collider, but I can be found personally at Wahothelmodenga.
I can be found personally at Sonic H with a 0.
John is at John_Cage, and Rory is
at Rory J. Summers, I believe.
No, he's not.
Is he at board meetings? We should really know this.
Yes, we should really know this. Well, it's just once I've, he is. He's at Rory J. Summers. He's changed his Twitter handle.
There you go.
There we go. That made things easy. We're also on Facebook and the Board Game Geek Guild 2726, but if you search for Polyhedron Collider, you will find us.
And we are also, Steve also runs a weekly game of Dungeons & Dragons, what some of us, in fact all of us, take part in. We alternate the weeks, but if you're interested in following the exploits of either the Champions of Chance or the Masters of Fate, or even both, you can find them on twitch.tv/Polyhedron Collider, and John then uploads them to youtube.com/user/Polyhedron Collider.
So, in the meantime, we shall speak to you in a few weeks, but until then, tatty bye and happy gaming.
Ta-ra for now. Enjoy.